talk now. This MMA, what we talking about? Yeah, you tuned into the pod now. Gonna be hard for you to stop now. Yeah, we caged in. Yeah, we caged in. Yeah, we caged in.
Welcome back to another episode of Caged In. I'm your host, Chris DiCarlo. As you can see, we are here in the hyperbolic time chamber, home of my guest, Joe Skeletor Giannetti. How we doing, my brother?
Doing good, man. I'm doing good. Glad to have you back. I'm glad this is a regular thing in the new spot. I like it.
Man, it's a nice little setup, man. You got everything laid out here. You got the backdrops and everything. It's plenty of space. Seems like the new spot to be for sure.
Yeah, no, it's been doing me great since COVID. I'm looking to one day, expand it a little bit. But for now, it gets the job done, and I couldn't be any more blessed.
100%, man. We are here to, of course, talk about Cage Titan 65, where you will be rematching Jacob Bohn for the second time, going down May 25th, Plymouth Memorial Hall, of course, Memorial Day weekend. It's going to be an absolute hell of a weekend.
Yes, sir.
The card's looking pretty stacked, top to bottom as well. Should be a good night of fights. But it has been a little bit since we talked, so let's play catch up a little bit, and we'll just run it back to last time we spoke was before Cage Titan 63, where you were going in there versus Sean Lally to defend the welterweight title. That fight ultimately doesn't end up happening due to you removing yourself from the card and for a bigger opportunity that you had at your hands. Can you just kind of, I know you've talked about it to death at this point, but just kind of brush through that, man, what happened with that scenario, and just kind of give me what happened there with Cage Titan 63.
Yeah, for sure. So it was funny. It was not long after accepting that fight and starting to promote it and get everybody going with it that the opportunity for the Ultimate Fighter came out, and they were looking for featherweights and middleweights. And, I'm a psycho, so immediately I'm texting all my coaches, like, what are the odds I can make featherweight? And they're like, have you ever had fun making 55? And I was like, never. And they're like, probably slim to none. Mm-hmm. I talked to Calvin Cater, asking what his weight was like, and I was like, oh, I weigh about the same when I'm eating really clean. And he's like, no, that's me eating junk food.
Right.
And that's when I was like, all right, so featherweight's not going to happen. And I'm undefeated at 170, and I train with plenty of bigger guys all the time. So I was like, 85 isn't that crazy. Like some people would say you're going from 55 to 85, but the way that my fights have been in the last few years where I'm already bouncing between lightweight and welterweight anyways, in my mind, if I dedicate to 85, I'm really only coming up from 70. So, I got in touch with the Ultimate Fighter. I applied, and when I had applied previously for the McGregor-Chandler season, It was after the deadline. I was, of course, in camp, didn't even know about it. Week of my fight, I see it, so I was like, forget it, I'll apply anyways. Didn't hear anything back. Makes sense. So this time, I was like, if I don't hear anything back, obviously it's not going to happen. I got an email back within 2 days. So I was like, oh, maybe there's something more to this. Last time, I didn't even get an email. This time, they're getting in touch with me. Talked to them, set up an interview. We did it. It was two of the producers that actually worked the season I was on. And, it was a great time. We caught up. They asked how training's been, my fights, my wins, my losses, everything. And it was just a really smooth interview. And the way that they had worded things when they were done at the end is they were like, we're going to get back in touch with you at the end of the month, and we're going to lock you in. You'll just have to do your background test. As long as you haven't committed any crimes, then you're good to go. To me, I'm hearing they're doing another interview. Don't do a crime, and I'm going to be on this season of Tough. So I told Cage Titans, I gave them probably like 3.5, 4 weeks advance, that I was pretty positive I was on the season. And they said, okay. So I pulled myself from the fight. Didn't end up getting on that season. Ended up catching a bunch of shit online. Rough part being, if you don't know when you apply for the Ultimate Fighter, you can't tell anybody you might be on. So it was just one of those, hey, I'm out of the fight, but I can't tell you why. I told Cage Titans to tell Lally why, because when I had originally gotten on Tough, I told my opponent at the time, I'm out and this is why, and he accepted it, was super respectable, and was like, we're all in here for the same thing. I would have done the same. Lally and his party did not feel the same way, kind of dragged my name through the mud, knowing I couldn't defend myself, and that's what really irked me, I get it. I'm a guy that has people pull out of fights all the time, but you knew the reason. Man to man, I was honest with you. And we still haven't had a conversation since. There's just been flurries with millions of different people on social media. So that fight didn't end up happening. And then I just was like, all right, well, if I'm not going to be fighting at 85 and I didn't fight at 70, I need to get back to focusing on 55, which the UFC has already said multiple times. We want to see you at 155.
Right.
And then it seemed like I was having more people interested in fighting me at 55. So I was like, cool, next card, 55, let's get it done. And we got Ali Zebian. Another one that's been calling me out for a while. Was super pumped to finally get that fight. He called me out about 3 years ago. I've been calling him back out for those following 3 years. And we got it locked in, signed on, and week and a half, 2 weeks out, he backs out of the fight.
Right.
No 55ers wanted to step in on short notice, which, like, it is what it is. I'm not a huge fan of stepping in on short notice, but I've obviously done it.
Right.
But when you have to cut weight to say 55, that's why you don't see me taking 55 fights short notice. So it didn't end up happening, which sucked really bad. But finally, we're back. Another rematch with Jacob Bohn. And, this is a fight that I've been trying to make for multiple reasons. One, I owe him. I missed weight the first time we fought. And two, like for me, it's a shot at redemption. Like I know for him, he's redeeming himself to try and beat me and take the belt. I'm redeeming myself to show people like the weight miss had nothing to do with why I won. If anything, I performed worse because of said weight miss.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm excited for the fight. I'm glad it's finally happening. And yeah, I'm just ready to go. It's a little close to the fight, so I'm getting antsy. I want to get in there.
I'm sure, man. And I remember talking to you back at the beginning of the year because the first fight was in January, right?
Yep.
The Cage Titans fight you're supposed to have was in January. So we spoke at the beginning of January, and your mission was you're getting married at the end of the year. You want to be on every Cage Titans card leading up to your wedding. Unfortunately, I haven't been on any Cage Titans
I haven't
card.
got on any of them.
So it's kind of worked a little bit backwards, but we are excited to see you get back in there on this Memorial Day weekend card. Cycling back to the Lally thing, before you made that announcement, before you hit send to June, were you surprised by how much negative backlash you got before you hit that send button on your announcement? Super
surprised, and especially because people had said like you should have just said like you got cut in training or you got knocked out or you blew your knee out or something, but like I had said, my past experience, so when I got on The Ultimate Fighter before, I was supposed to fight Dan Dubuque at Reality. And I messaged Reality, told them, hey, same thing, because they don't really tell you, hey, you're on the show. They just kind of lead you on and then hit you with a hard yes or no at the very last minute. So I was like, I'm 99% sure I'm on. I'm not going to be able to make it to fight night. And they said, we'll tell Dan. Dan reached out to me and messaged me, hey, man, we're all in this for the same thing. I would have done the same thing if I could, because obviously it was an undefeated season. He couldn't try out.
Right.
But he was like, if I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing. So in my head, I'm like, it'll happen again. We're all fighters. We're all striving towards the same thing. So I'm going to be honest, man to man. This is why I'm pulling out of the fight. And, he didn't take it that way. And like I said, what had irked me wasn't him being angry that I pulled out of the fight, because that's a natural reaction.
Right,
I get it.
it's understandable.
It was the dragging my name through the mud, knowing that I can't defend myself. And then when I would say, hey, you know why I can't defend myself? He would respond with, well, why don't you tell the people why you can't? And obviously I don't know for sure, but I'm friends with producers that work on The Ultimate Fighter on Facebook and on Instagram. And so I told everybody, obviously I don't know, this is an assumption, but it is a possibility. Sean Lally might have created his own self-fulfilling prophecy, because when he made that post talking shit about me, he also put, if you want to know the actual reason why, message me and I'll DM it to you. And he was DMing people all week long, telling them he's on The Ultimate Fighter, he's ducking me. Well, my fiance's cousin didn't text me, I don't know why, but he messaged Lally and was like, hey, I was looking forward to the fight, like what's going on? And he told him, he's on The Ultimate Fighter, he's ducking me. Well, now you're online telling people I'm on The Ultimate Fighter. The one rule before physically being on the show, and not only did you break it, but you tagged me, you put it out there, like those producers might have seen it and go, well, New England knows Joe's back, so we're not picking him. Obviously, I don't know if that's what happened. It could have simply been you're a 55er applying for 85. That did come up in the interview I had with them. They liked my reasoning for why I said I was going up. And so I don't know. They didn't tell me a reason no. But that it is in the back of my mind that I very much might not be on this season because of Sean Lally. So it's like, as mad as he is at me, it's like, you created your own problem. Because if you hadn't said anything, maybe I get on the show and then you have nothing to be mad about. But then, or if you don't say anything, maybe they would have responded and said, hey, we're not picking you because, and then I would have fought him instead. So it was just a real messy scenario, and I lost a lot of respect for him and a lot of people in the community, honestly. Like, you don't have to look very hard to find a reason not to like me, and I know that, and I really don't care, and that's something that I've come to terms with in the last 6 months. I think before my original season, The Ultimate Fighter, a lot of people didn't like me because I was just online saying whatever I had to because I couldn't get fights. I fought my first 4 pro fights at 170. Then I went down to 55 because I was getting opponents, and then I wasn't getting anything. So I was just talking shit to everybody. I was like, somebody's going to hate me enough to risk it and get in the cage with me. And it worked. I was getting fights. I got on the show, came back, and then I was just like, I'm just going to be me and do me. People still didn't like me. I took some losses during COVID. I kind of went radio silent. I came here, I built the garage, and I busted my ass. And when I came back and I was like, I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to fight my own actual feelings, and I'm not going to talk any shit. I'm going to be that guy that just shows up and does his job. And it seemed like everybody was cool with that. They were like, oh, Joe's changed. He's worked off. And I had tried to battle my inner demons of like, somebody talks shit. You immediately want to get back at them. Right. And I had fought that. And it seemed like everybody was cool with it. But then this happens, and everybody just tries to pile it on. I knew it. He's a coward. He's terrible. He's afraid to fight you. If you haven't figured out I'm not afraid to fight anybody, I was about to be on the Ultimate Fighter at 185.
Right.
Like, I trained with Luke Rockhold, who fought at 85, and obviously because he's Luke Rockhold, he beat my ass.
Right.
But even if he wasn't Luke Rockhold, he probably would have beat my ass. But I'll fight anybody. And so it kind of just showed a lot of true colors. People that, I don't want to say I'd consider friends, but acquaintances you see around in the scene, I had some respect for. And, I just lost respect for so many people. And now I'm back at that point where I'm like, no, I'm still going to be authentically me. But if you say my name, don't be mad when I'm better at talking shit. Me and my friends say heinous things to each other, and we love each other. We would die for each other.
Right.
So when you start talking shit to me, you better bring your A game, because when I come back, I don't want to hear, that's messed up. Why would you say that? I don't like talking genuine shit to people.
Right.
Like, I tell people that have a problem with me, just leave me alone, and we'll be cool. Unless we can get in the cage and fight, then we can both get paid. Let's do that.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you're not a fighter, just leave me be, and I'll leave you be. But if you want to talk shit, don't be mad when you're not as good as me at it. And that's kind of where I'm at, Like, I think a lot of people are going to be angry when I win on May 25th, and I'm going to make it known that I'm laughing at everybody. Everybody that's there booing, everybody that's texting their buddy, oh, Giannetti won again. I'm going to make sure that night sucks. Everybody there, as soon as they raise my hand, they're going to be walking out, unless they're there to see Jack Congdon, they're going to be walking out ready to just go get shit-faced because they're going to be so angry. And I'm going to rub it in, because that's what's deserved.
I got you, man. And, after that whole debacle, you do sign on for 64. You were very excited to get back on that one. Like you mentioned, 155. You were looking to reclaim your title on that one versus Ali Zebian. Unfortunately, that one doesn't end up happening. It was somewhat short notice, but within a couple weeks of
yeah,
fight
it's like
night.
a week and a half.
Was there ever any talk of a replacement coming in for that fight, or was there nobody willing to either cut down and make the weight or come up and make the weight? Was there any talk of any replacements there?
No, the only thing that I had seen was Lally, once again, he made a video, like, come up to 70 and fight me.
Right.
And because I get so much shit about weight cuts and making weight, I was already under 170. Mm-hmm. So everybody was like I said, showing true colors and piling on. Well, it's easier to gain weight than to lose weight. Well, yeah, obviously, but I'm the one fighting. Like, you want to call me out, you come to my weight.
Right.
And that's a problem me and Lally have had before. When I called out Peter Barrett and he wouldn't fight me, Lally stepped in and was like, well, I'll fight you. And I said the same thing I'm saying now. Nobody gives a shit about you. I'm trying to fight Pete, Now we're back at that point where it's like, I want to fight Pete. Pete won't fight me again. Lally's in the background complaining. So it is what it is. But yeah, other than that, nobody was willing to come to 55. And like I said, I get it. I'm not as egotistical as it sounds. I'm not a nobody. So, short notice, especially if you do have to cut the weight. Like I said, I don't take short notice fights at 55 because a full camp for fighting at 55 is hard enough as is.
Right.
I kind of knew once Ali pulled out that I wasn't going to fight on that card, but I was like, stay positive, fingers crossed. And
hopefully something pops up.
Yeah, Cage Titans has pulled off some crazy miracles. I've had guys pull out the day before weigh-ins, and then they're like, come weigh in, and we'll get you an opponent. And sure as shit, on fight night, I was fighting somebody.
Yeah.
So I try to keep that in the back of my mind, but, I think the more and more experience I get in the fight game, it's going to be less and less likely. So we're here.
Of course, man. I'm sure, like you mentioned, with the short replacements, I'm sure it is a lot harder for them to find opponents to step in for a title fight, because it does need to be more of an evenly matched fight for a title, a more legitimate matchup for a title as well. When it's more of just like a regular 155 bout, it's easier to just kind of slide guys in and out. So I definitely understand them having a hard time getting somebody on short notice for that one. But I think that wraps up the catch-up, man. It's been, only 6 months, but I feel like a lot has happened for you in 6 months, my guy.
It's been a lot.
But, it's all led up to Cage Titan 65 coming down Memorial Day weekend. That's the reason why we're here, so let's touch on that and get into the matchup, man. Training camp. How's camp been? I know you've had it been in the back of your mind since the loss to Dufort that you want to get back in there and get that title, get that 155-pound title back around your waist. You're now in a champ camp getting ready for that one, man. How's it feel to have pen to paper, announcement, everything's leading up to fight night? We're only 2 weeks out, and you're back in the gym training hard for a title fight, man. How's that feel to be back in that mind state again?
It feels great. It's been rough not fighting. You hear fighters say it all the time, like, when I'm out of camp, I'm not the best version of me. And it's hard to push yourself to be that best version with no end goal. And coming up in the sport, I've been training combat sports, if you include wrestling, since I was 14, 13.
Right.
And then like actual fighting since I was 17, I always saw those guys that eventually became the like, I don't train unless I have a fight. And I always told myself I'd never be that guy. And I'm not that guy. I'm in the gym every single day, busting my ass. But just mentally, I hit another gear when I have a fight, you know? And that's something that I've been working on. And unfortunately, with the last 2 fights not happening, I've been able to do that. I've been just going so hard in the gym, knowing I'm not fighting on this card, I'm not fighting on the next card, and just going so hard. And then finally getting this fight locked in, it's just kind of like we don't even have to change gears. We just got to keep going the speed that we're at, push ourselves, and just let the results happen as they'll be. And, you know, everybody at New England Cartel and BTT Taunton have just been, like, so helpful. And they've been leveling up their games, too. You know, I go into BT Taunton some days, and guys that I have, like, good rounds with that I normally kind of just tap 6-7 times are like, they're pushing it, they're bringing it to me, and you know, normally I'd be like, why are you going so hard? But they'll tell me, they're like, no, you got to fight, like we got to push you. And you know, I can only say thank you so many times. So I'm blessed to have people like that around me.
For sure, man. Sounds like you're having a pretty solid camp. I got to ask, man, the question on everybody's mind, weight management, man. How's weight management going? How's the body feeling? Are you on track to make weight? We are 2 weeks out. How's everything going for you in that department?
It's great. I was 173 this morning, 2 weeks out. If you don't know, if you're not in my camp or in my ear a lot, the Monday of fight week, I'm usually 170, and that's like a green light. If I'm 170 the Monday of, I'm like, oh, we're good.
Right.
And so being 173, 2 weeks out, I'm so happy, and I'm eating so much food, and I'm still lifting, and my training, I don't feel depleted at all. You know, I'll get tired because we're pushing hard, but it's never like, oh, I didn't eat enough, so I feel weak. I'm eating more than ever in this fight camp. And, you know, I've just talked to so many people in the nutrition field, and I've done my own research. And that's all I've tried to ever tell people. Whenever I've had a weight problem, like, you know, everything in this garage, like I built myself. I've had so many sponsors, you included, like people that I've had people send me heavy bags and gloves and things like that. And 2 Fight Bros bought this heater for me. So like so many people have blessed me, but I've had to get the ball rolling on all these things. Right. And so I don't have all this money to go hire $1,000 a month nutritionist. I don't have a strength and conditioning coach. This is all research that I have to do, or using my connections, you know, with guys at AKA and strength and conditioning coaches, and just kind of picking their brains. And I've got to take notes. I've got notebooks and notebooks at home of like, you know, this week out, I should be doing this week out, I should be eating that. And, you know, every time I've missed weight, you know, minus my short notice. Once again, reasons I don't do short notice at 55. Nobody cares that you're trying to save a fight. They just want results. And, but now it's like, it's always just been an error on my part, whether it's timing, whether I ate something a little early or late, or drank more than I should or less. And, you know, there's a science to it. And then everybody that you talk to that doesn't have that experience just brings it to, well, you're getting older, you probably just can't make the weight anymore. And it's like, no, because I can feel it. I can feel when I go against, when I wrestle a guy like Jack Congdon. I'm like, this is a big kid.
Right.
I'm like, and I'm sure he's not the biggest welterweight out there. So I'm like, I got to fight somebody even bigger than him.
Right.
So, you know I can feel it when I have a good round with him, where my weight's at, that I can go down to 55. And, you know, I did a DEXA scan up in Boston. It did my muscle mass and my fat and all that stuff. And they were like, you do not eat nearly enough calories. Right. So if I were to sit on my couch all day and do nothing, just watch TV, get up to go to the fridge or whatever, I burn 3,200 calories every day.
Right.
I was eating like 1,800 calories.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, less calories than I'm
Yeah, you're
eating.
in a deficit.
Yeah, I should be losing weight. No, I was in starvation mode. So my body is literally just holding everything it can. And so I asked the doctor, I was like, so should I just double my calories? And she was like, yes. And she told me the exact amount to eat to lose a certain amount of weight. And it's been working. You know, I've been eating double what I normally eat. And, you know, you could notice it within days. Like my fiance was like, you lose any weight? And I was like, yeah, like 4 pounds. And she was like, you can see it in your face.
Right.
But I'm eating more than ever. You know, like 3 weeks ago, I got Chick-fil-A. That's not even in my vocabulary in fight camp.
Right.
But it's just awesome to be able to live like a normal life and a healthy life. You know, as everybody knows, I was a short little fat kid in high school. So, you know, things come with that I feel like a lot of fighters don't talk about. You know, there's eating disorders and body dysmorphia. Things, I've dealt with those things, and it sucks, you know. And I tell people, like, the week after my fight, even if I don't eat that much, I sit in the mirror like, damn, I look like shit. I could have like an ab poking through, and I'd be like, there was 6 of those last weekend.
Right.
So it's like, it's been one of those things mentally and physically dealing with, and I'm finally feeling like everything's starting to align, and I'm understanding it. So I don't need to go pay somebody to do it because I can do it myself. And I think those results are really going to show off this fight.
There you go, man. Let's get into that fight then. May 25th, Cage Titan 65, the rematch versus Jacob Bohn. It's funny, it is kind of like a full circle moment for me. My first Cage Titans card I ever covered was your fight with Jacob Bohn at the beginning of 2022. And of course, everything that happened with the lead up to that one. There was obviously like a handshake agreement that you guys would run it back. What took so long for that fight to finally come to fruition? It has been, a couple of years and some change now, and we're finally getting it now. And I think it's probably even more enticing now than it was then, given like how Jacob's been performing since that fight and how you've been performing since that fight. So just what's taken so long for that one to come to fruition, and how excited are you to run this one back and kind of make things right?
I don't know exactly who, but I know it's been Bone's team the entire time. I don't think it's Bone. That guy will fight anybody. Mm-hmm. But I think after that fight, his team, his ex-manager or new manager now, they didn't want the fight. And it's just as simple as that. I was actually kind of harping Cage Titans, like, let's make the rematch. Because as great as the fight was as a fan, like I've watched it back, if it wasn't me, I'd be like, that was a sick fight. Right. But as a fighter, I hate that fight. Everybody says all the time, I don't get hit in my fights. Nobody, my skill set didn't show in that fight. There was plenty of other things I showed, heart, toughness, all that. And I love that for myself. Mm-hmm. But that's not the type of fighter I am, and I tell people since I was an amateur, I always have to fight that urge to just, Max Holloway, step in the pocket, with 4 minutes left, not 10 seconds. Yeah. And I've done that, as a pro, like I fight that urge to just stand there and brawl. And that fight I didn't. There's plenty of BS behind the scenes I was dealing with, but there's no excuse. So I've been pushing to get that fight, and they didn't want it. And finally, I feel like Bone's kind of coming into his own 4-fight win streak against some up and comers. So I feel like he's gained a little bit more confidence himself. So even if it wasn't him saying no before, I feel like even he's pushing for the fight more now. So if they were saying no, he's saying no, it's that time. And that's what I want. I want the best version of Bone because, like I said to him in the cage, there's no excuses after this one. I'm going to be the first one on the scale. I'm going to be on weight, hoping he's going to be on weight. I've never heard of him not being on weight. I don't care who's healthy, who's not healthy. If you can't make it to the fight, don't make it to the fight. But, I don't want to hit somebody in the chin and have them grabbing their knee. After this, I'm excited to see what the fans make for excuses, but between me and Bone, there'll be no excuses after this, and that's going to be the most satisfying part.
For sure, man. You guys had a pretty decent amount of cage time versus each other the first time. So I want to pick your ear about Jacob Bohn in 2022 versus the Jacob Bohn you're expecting in 2024. What do you think the biggest differences from then to now are going to be?
I feel like I said, I think he's just kind of come into his own. I feel like he's got his own little bit of swagger now. You see him choking out Mo Kanani, sticking his tongue out, the Nate Diaz, stuff like that. That stuff's wicked cool. I always see people do it in fights, and I'm like, I would love to do that. And then I'm in the fight, and I'm like, just win. I'm like, just go out there and do your job. Mm-hmm. There's been times where like I'll do a little something to get in my opponent's head, but other than that, it's just like get in there, do your job, get out, and then you can say how scared or excited you were in the cage. But yeah, I feel like he's coming into his own. He's got his own little bit of swagger, and a little bit more. I think he's got more confidence now than before. Mm-hmm. Might be a little bit too much. I feel like the downside is like, the people I have around me, whether it seems like it or not, because most of them are drunk idiots by the time fight night comes around, they're very real. And as messed up as it sounds like, I keep them in line. Like I tell them there's certain shit you don't say to my opponents. Mm-hmm. There's certain shit you don't say to his team or his family. And there's certain shit you don't say to me, Right. Me and him are going to get in there and do the man dance. We're going to settle it. So you don't have to say much. People still say stuff. It is what it is. But, I don't need my people fighting my fights, and I don't need my people arguing with his people about who's going to win the fight. Right. I feel like he's got a lot of people around him that are cool with just running their mouths. And I've told all my people, because I've been getting texts, like, yo, so-and-so said this, so-and-so said that. And I said, don't worry, because when they wrap that belt around my waist, I'm going to rub it in all their faces. Everybody that hates me now is going to hate me 10 times as much after I win that belt. And it's not going to be anything outlandish. It's just going to be, you paid to watch me win this belt. Mm-hmm. And I got paid to win this belt in front of you. Right. Think about that on your drive home. That's it. Simple as that.
There you go, man. It sounds like Skeletor is turning heel.
A little bit.
Now, on the flip side of that question, man, Joe Giannetti from 2022 in that first fight to Joe Giannetti now in 2024, what are the biggest differences to you in your game that Jacob Bohn can expect on May 25th?
Honestly, I think there's a lot. Like every department I've improved, but I'd say the biggest improvements that I've made would have to be like the mental side of things. Like I said, I had a lot of stuff going on leading up to that first Bohn fight, and I don't know if you can hear it in the fight video, but in between rounds of that fight, the only thing my corner said to me was, you look great. You're landing whatever you want. Just stop brawling with him.
Right.
And I felt so horrible in the cage. I looked at them and said, can't, and just shrugged my shoulders. I was like, I'm just going to go out there, put all my weight on my lead foot, and we're going to throw, and we're going to see who falls down first. You know, I got a big head. It's going to take, I don't know who it's going to be, but it's going to take somebody to knock this thing down. And so I told him, I was like, I can't. I'm going to go down there and see who falls first. And that's what happened. And, you know, now I feel like all that stuff has passed. You know, I've worked so much on my mental state and my mental health, and just, you know, the confidence of knowing who I am and being me, because in my past few years of fighting, I've been like the politically correct, don't argue with anybody, you know, we're all in this together, local MMA community thing. And all that happens is the shit talk just gets quieter, but it never goes away. These people that want to drag you down, they won't say it to your face, especially when the majority is on your side. But as soon as they see that opportunity to kick you while you're down, they get real loud. And so, you know, it kind of just brought me to that point where I got nothing to lose. You know, now I can be me louder than ever before. I can be more confident than ever. I can tell you that I think you suck and you've never fought and you can't see your own feet because you're so fat. And it is what it is. It's like, you're going to hate me if I wish you nothing but the best. You're going to hate me if I wish you nothing but the worst. So I'm just going to be me. And the realest version of me is one of the best fighters on the planet. And that's what everybody's going to see May 25th.
There you go, man. And it has been since November, since you've been inside the hall for a competition. What can the fans in attendance at Plymouth Memorial Hall expect from the return of Joe Giannetti?
A lot of energy. I'm bringing a lot of energy to that fight. You know, I'm looking forward to putting my foot on the gas for 5 rounds or anything less than that. Going for the finish every single minute, and we're gonna put on a show. You know, it's not gonna be the first fight. You know, there's so many people that have been like, dude, I can't wait. The first fight was a banger, and I hate to disappoint the fans. You're not getting that fight. Maybe on the prelims of the card, maybe in the main event. But it's not going to be like that. This is going to be a surgical masterclass. It's going to be nothing like the first fight. And even my own fans might leave disappointed with how it goes.
Right.
But my hand is going to get raised. It's going to be a flawless victory. And me and my team will be able to actually celebrate after this fight.
There you go, man. And, you know, let's say best case scenario plays out May 25th. You go out there, you get the win, Cage Titans, and new again, 155 title. Where's the future for Joe Giannetti stand in the aspect of New England regional MMA? Do you feel like your time is kind of up here? Because it's been hard for you to get fights. That's the only reason why I asked, because it's been so hard for you to get fights, especially at 55, where you say the UFC wants you. It's hard for you to find competition. But there's other regional promotions with tons of talent at 55. Do you feel like in the best interest of the trajectory of your career moving forward, it might be best for you to kind of get out of the region?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I've talked about it with my team, and I've talked about it with, you know, even my family. It sucks because, like, Cage Titans is my home. It has been. I've only had 2 professional fights outside of it, and it's because it was during COVID. It was always a dream of mine to fight at LFA. I just never knew how to get the connection, never thought it would happen. It happened during COVID. But, you know, maybe I end up back over there. I've been contacted by Anthony Pettis FC, by Fury FC. I would love to redeem myself over at Cage Warriors, whether it's in California where they've been doing shows or back overseas. But there's plenty of options, you know, and, you know, this very well could be my last time making the walk at Plymouth Memorial Hall, just simply because the only people that are outspokenly willing to fight me are guys that have won 1 fight in the last 4 years. You know, not even bad guys, but guys that the UFC doesn't care about. They're on a 4-fight losing streak. They win a split decision. Then they're like, I should fight for the title against Joe Giannetti. Well, if I beat you, everybody says I beat a guy that's won 1 fight in 5 years.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
The optics of it all.
Exactly. And that's the problem, is you got these guys that either on a 5-fight win streak fight nobodies, and then I finally say yeah, and they say no, or a guy that's won 1 fight in 5 years, and everybody goes, you're afraid of him. And I go, no, but I beat him. I spent all this money on fight camp, and then I'm not in the UFC. I don't get anything out of it. And that's where I'm at this point, is like, I spend so much money, you know, even this fight camp, I'm not going to California. I didn't go to California. You know, I worked with BTT Taunton. I worked up in New England Cartel, and I'm so blessed for it. But I take time off of work. I'm missing on time making money. So it's like, if I'm missing out on making this money, like, the bills don't go away. I got to pay those bills. So, you know, I'm getting paid at Cage Titans. You know, people buy merch. People are buying tickets. It's awesome. But the UFC's got to come calling eventually, and I'm going to fight and beat whoever I have to for them to come calling. So, you know, like I said before, I'm not going to go fight some nobody who's decent that the UFC doesn't care about because the fat Joe Schmo that hasn't seen his feet in a couple of years thinks that I'm ducking him. But I want the best of the best, and that hasn't changed. So, you know, this could be the last walk at Plymouth Memorial Hall. But we'll see what happens. Either way, I'm leaving with that belt on May 25th.
100%, man. Joe, thanks for opening the doors. Thanks for letting me come in and talk to you once again, man. This seems like it might be the new tradition now.
Yeah, I'm
we
down.
Said the last time, it's now 2 in a row where we've been here in the home gym. Definitely a cool spot to come in and film and talk to you, of course. Before I get you out of here, man, where can the people come find you on social media? Where can they come get some of these sick jerseys that you're rocking right now? And I'll just kind of leave the people with something.
GiannettiMMA.com. You can get all the merch over there. If you want to become a sponsor, you can reach out to me on all my social media, which is just Giannetti MMA. 2 N's and 2 T's. Messes everybody up. There's also a form on my website to fill it out, and we can email and talk about it. But yeah, I just want to thank all my sponsors, everybody you see on this banner, Cage in included. Like I said, I got the ball rolling on all this between my career and building the garage during COVID, but all these sponsors helped make it happen. And I don't know if it would happen without all of them. And all you guys buying tickets and buying merch and buying the pay-per-views using code Giannetti. Yeah, I'm blessed. Plenty of shit goes on in my life outside of fighting, but I've got so many blessings that outweigh it.
Awesome, man. Joe, well, I appreciate the time once again, man. I'll see you inside the building May 25th.
Yes, sir.
And best of luck to you in the future, brother.
Appreciate it, bro.
Got down for the count and he can't even talk now. This MMA, what we talking about? Yeah, you tuned into the pod now. Gonna be hard for you to stop now. Yeah, we caged in. Yeah, we caged in. Yeah, we caged in.